welcome back to the Crochet Crowd. Today you're going to learn how to knit with Bernat Truffles. It's new on the marketplace as of 2012. It is really an interesting yarn when you look at it. It's kind of like, I almost call it like train tracks, but you open it up and you have loops on the outside just like so. So you just open it, and so basically when you're knitting with this thing, it's causing the whole project to look very ruffled like, and this is almost like, it reminds me of candy, and I guess that's why they've called it truffles. When you have light behind it, you can see how airy and light this thing is, but when you're wearing this on top of your clothes, it is just such a fashion accessory. To get started, 4.5mm knitting needles are all that you need, and all you just need to do is just slide this off, and we're going to be working from the exterior of the ball into the interior, so we're not going to be able to pull it through here like you would on a normal yarn. And the reason for it is just because of the way that the yarn is operating, and so basically when you're pulling out the yarn, you can see that it looks just like so. So we're going to be playing with the top loops, and you will hear me refer to these as almost train tracks because that's what it reminds me of. And when we're working with these, when you see the loops, so you see 3 loops currently on your screen, you're only going to be working with every other one. So one skip, one skip, and you're going to work away along that too. So the trick to this is that you have to keep your yarn pretty well uniform, so you don't want it twisting up like so, because then all of a sudden you're not going to be able to find these loops. So let's grab up our knitting needle, and I'm going to skip the very first one because, you know, I want to, and it's my choice. It's probably a good idea as well. So just grab one of your knitting needles and just stick it through the top loop just like that. Okay, I want you to skip the next loop that you can see and put on the second one. So this is, so you got 2 casted on already. This is how easy it is. We're going to skip the next one and put on the second, just like that. Skip the next, put on the second, and skip the next and put on the very last one. So this will be number 5. So basically this is how you've done it. So the very beginning of the yarn is over here, and the next one is coming from the yarn ball is still at the tip of your knitting needle. So now let's begin to knit as normal. To make it easier for yourself, I just kind of push up, just be a little bit gentle about this, and just push up so that they're all toward the end of the needle. It just makes less work later. We're going to slip the needle in behind the first loop, just like so, and we're just going to be knitting as normal. Okay, so there's no fancy knitting stitches because you can't really see your work anyway. So this is the very first one that you see here, the first loop. Okay, and the next one is your second, and we're going to take that second and we're just going to put it onto the needle from behind. Just like so, and we're just going to pop it through the front and then slide off. So let's do the next one. So into the next loop that you see with your knitting needle, okay, and so we're going to skip the very next loop and we're going to go to the second, slip on, and knit. Okay, so next one again, so just pulling it out, so we're going to skip the first one, go to the second, just like so. Okay, so we're going to skip the next one, go to the second, and we got one more to go. So skip the next one, and you can see it's kind of sliding down, and that's cool. Nothing to do with that, and nothing to worry. Put on the second, just like so, and knit. So there's so here's some tips for you. See how I just rotated this way? If you're always knitting and keep rotating it that way, what's going to happen is you're going to cause a twist coming from the yarn ball into here. So every now and then, probably every other one, I would recommend, instead of just how I just reset it just like so, just go the other direction like that. It sounds like a pain, but it's, you know, a lot easier than having this yarn tangled up on you, and you can see everything has stayed uniform. So let's begin another line. So you're going to knit exactly the same way all the way through this project. Again, you're going to skip the first one, go to the second, okay, and on. And you're going to get your rhythm, and you're going to start seeing this project go pretty quick. So you're going to skip the first one, go to the second. And you're going to notice as well, because I was doing this in bed last night, is that you do start to see the distance. Okay, see how I'm just automatically just kind of reaching for the distance of what the second one is. Okay, so there's the first, there's the second. Like this, and you're going to see this project starting to come together really quickly, and you're going to knit the entire ball like this, and until you get to probably about 20 loops left on your knitting needles. So let's just review this one last time, and I'm going to show you a couple more tricks just in case this happens to you. So let's go again, second over. So you gotta just make sure that that never twists on you. So you see how it's always in line just like so. So you don't want to twist and then put it on, because then it will appear in your work. And there you go. So that's what it's kind of looking like just before. And again, it's just like the sample, and it's starting to come together pretty quickly. In fancy yarn, just like so, and it's just not exclusive to Bernat, it's all the other major brands as well, is that this kind of yarn is kind of tough to manufacture at times, and you know, sometimes something happens with the machine and they are forced to cut the material and then tie it back on. You know, every yarn ball, as much as we would love it to be a solid piece of yarn, but you know, sometimes we occasionally have knots, and this is one of those projects where it does make a difference on how you deal with those. So what we want to do is that we're going to be looking along this project before we get to the actual knitting part, and we want to deal with that before we're going to put things onto the knitting needles. We don't want to put that knot into this project because it'll be very clearly obvious and you'll be very self-conscious of it. So we have a knot coming up, just like so. So how do you deal with that? We're simply gonna just grab our scissors and we're gonna cut that knot out. Okay, so we're just gonna cut it out, just like so. And what I want to do is that when I go to now knit this, I want to treat this like I was casting on. So now that I've cut my material, all I'm going to just do now is slip in my knitting needle just like this, and I'm going to just take the remainder that we have and we're going to knit that as normal. But wait, just wait. So I'm going to put one on, and then I'm going to put a new piece on, just like so, and I'm going to put it on as well, and I'm going to use those to knit at the same time. Okay, so I want to now take the new one, so the old one one more time, just to make sure that I did get it. Okay, and then the new one. And what this is doing is basically it's changing. So if you ever had to do a yarn ball change, this is how you would add it on so you wouldn't see any of the knots. And so we're just going to knit across as normal with the new yarn that you've were forced to cut. Now any of those loops that we've just put on, they're going to have extra stragglers coming off. We can deal with that at the end by just trimming them shorter so that they're kind of blending in with this kind of frill yarn as well. So here's what it would look like then. We've cut our yarn, we've taken the knot out, we've treated both pieces the same, and you can see that there's really no difference and you cannot even notice it. So if you would have had a knot, you would have actually been clearly able to see it at that point. So how do you cast off on this thing? Let's review that next. You're going to use your yarn ball right up to the very end. It's one ball, one scarf, and I love that kind of idea because it means that, you know, for only $6 you got a fabulous scarf. So let's begin the casting off process, and we're just going to slip in and knit what we think is normal, and we're just going to make sure everything's good. Every second one as normal. We want to make sure our edges stay the same, so we're going to do every second one. Okay, so we got one off, okay, and then we're going to do another one. We're going to do another one, and then all of a sudden you now have two on this side, and basically I'm just going to grab my knitting needles and I just want to pull this one over the second, just like that. So just do the next one. We're just going to knit as normal. It's kind of how you do loom knitting casting off as well. Okay, so you knit, you now have two on this side, so you're just going to slip your needle in the first one and just gently pull it over the first or the second one. Okay, next. Very painless process, and this is the very last one. I like the simplicity of this product. Okay, so this is the very last one. We're going to take the first one and put it over the second as before. And so now this is where we deal with this very final one. So technically I should be near the end of my yarn ball anyway, but I'm going to trim it anyway. And I'm going to hold on to this loop. This is the very last loop. And I'm going to feed in the other yarn that we've just cut into that loop. Just like that. Okay, and you might want to just tie that one more time, so just grab an area. You can use your knitting needle for that as well. Just pull it through something. So now that we tied it in there. All we're just going to do now is just take our scissors and cut it nice and close. Okay. So then all you got to just do is shake it out, and you will see that everything will balance, and even the loose ends that you may have had are all now gone, and it's all looking great. And so then basically the strings that you see coming out, just like so, this was part of adding on that second yarn. You just want to be very careful on where you're trimming it. I can see that this loop is completely free, so I can safely cut up into that area up there. Because the next loop on the other side of this train track is actually worked into the project. So again, you just got to shake it out a bit, and all of a sudden you have a great project just like so. And this is called the Bernat Truffles. Until next time, I'm Mikey from the Crochet Crowd.